Hello everyone, welcome back to the Aspergian Journal. Building confidence and dealing with uncertainty are very difficult aspects of life that every autistic person struggles with at many moments in their lives. But it doesn't have to stay that way, and by increasing resilience towards uncertainty, you can live a fulfilling life and be able to seek out and work towards the dreams and goals that you have in your life. By definition, uncertainty is a fear-provoking thought that people have when they are anxious about future events or situations where the outcomes is out of everyone's control. For autistic people, they react to uncertainty with negativity to new situations or events because they can't predict of what's going to happen, and that can lead towards building anxiety within them. This pattern of thinking can lead to building an intolerance for uncertainty and can affect their thoughts, feelings and behaviours, which then has an overall impact on their overall well-being. As I've mentioned in previous videos, as anxiety is one of the major cornerstones of the autistic spectrum, it's natural that dealing with uncertainty is also part of the spectrum as well. Basically, they both work hand in hand and can be very frightening for the autistic person if not managed effectively and working towards gradually reducing the severity of that anxiety and how it impacts the person in particular. Autistic people find uncertainty very stressing and upsetting, and they'll try and do everything they can to avoid it. For example, if an autistic child might refuse to go to school, or for children and adults might refuse to go to social events. Now that in particular is something that every autistic person struggles with, because social interaction is not something that comes natural to us autistics, and it's something that we have to learn from the ground up, where neurotypical people take this skill for granted. Ever since from being a child and growing up as a teenager and getting into early adulthood, I've always struggled with uncertainty where I needed to be in control or have a rough idea of what's ahead in a situation or event so I can mentally prepare for it. Uncertainty can be very distressing in situations where a lot of changes are taking place at once, which we all have those moments at various points in our lives, but it can build up overwhelming pressure for autistic people as we religiously like having our routines. And we get very upset and when sudden changes interrupt them. A good example of this was when I was 8 years old. I was in an autism specialist school, and I was getting transferred into mainstream schooling, primary school. And that involved, a lot of changes of going from that one setting and to another setting. When I look back now, it might not be as anxiously provoking as it was at the time, but as a child, when you're setting your routines, it's very distressing to when you're so used to certain surroundings and then going into new ones, it's very hard and distressing. And also, leaving a school environment where the support was there for autistic students and going into a mainstream schooling situation where the support and that was not there initially, it's very distressing for the autistic person in having the reassurance of knowing where the support is at, and just can be overwhelming when they're meeting new people. Throughout my school years, I've witnessed many a times where teachers in primary and secondary school setting, and they don't really know about autism, and they typically confuse autistic behaviours with children that are just being naughty, and this can lead to autistic students from being expelled or being put under disciplinary procedures of what schools might call bad behaviour, but they fail to understand that autistic children, they'll display certain behaviours as their way to demonstrate the distress and the anxiety that they have for the situation or event, and that they feel unsettled in. And this can lead to sensory overload and feeling uneased to the point where they just want to get out of that situation and to a place of calm and safety, which a lot of us would refer to as our comfort zone. As an autistic child, especially going into like secondary school, like teenager years, I did not class myself in that as a bad kid and displayed, like any violent tendencies or anything like that. A lot of the time, I always used to just put pressure on myself and it comes back to that same cycle that I've mentioned before about like how my autism and that can be like my gift and my curse, and and questioning it because the original diagnosis didn't match up to who I was as a person, and really just trying to fit in with people, with my peers. But a lot of the time, those peers and that did not want to involve me in their social interactions. And most of the time, I was always bullied, and that just because I was different. And it is wrong and cruel in every way. But the shame thing is, I don't see that situation been improved at all in the last 20 years. And I think even nowadays with social media and many other aspects like the lack of discipline in schools, I think has perpetuated the behaviours of non-autistic children and how they impact people that maybe have certain difficulties. I thought it was bad enough in that at the time when I was at school, where social media wasn't really a thing. I mean, for goodness sake, computers and that were only just starting coming into schools, not alone students having smartphones on them all the time. So it's funny how things have changed, maybe for the better in some ways, but in others, it's just another device or another way that the bad kids and that who like to pick and bully on others, it helps them to manifest their behaviours even more. And I don't think schools are very well equipped in dealing with those behaviours effectively. Because of the bullying that I faced at school, and also other health issues that I had as a teenager, that really knocked my confidence really back. And it took me a long time to rebuild that self-belief within myself and be able to tackle new situations head on. Nowadays, I am a lot more better with dealing with like sudden changes to my routines, or when sudden things happen. I still get a bit overwrought about it, but I've just developed my own method of how to manage it more effectively. Obviously, that's different for everyone, but it does work, and whatever works for you in managing uncertainty, which at the end of the day is a fear-provoking state of mind and unease that's also perpetuated by whatever anxiety you have. Once you tackle the hidden causes of what perpetuates your uncertainty, you're always going to be stuck in that cycle of where you're not going to be able to try new things, and you're always going to be stuck in your comfort zone, and that's going to prevent you from developing more as a human being, trying new things, trying new hobbies, which might, pique your interests or expand them even further, and that which might open up other opportunities in terms of career, starting a business, and helping others through volunteering or any other kind acts, and basically just bringing more fulfillment to your life. As I left the school system with no qualifications, and I went to college and university to get a better education and hopefully increase my job prospects, as well as trying to get as much practical work experience as much as possible. But the biggest barrier that I always came up against is where employers always used to see me as unemployable, or they just did not want to give me that opportunity. It's like when I initially started out in my career in accountancy, one of the things that I always used to come up against was that no companies or practices wanted to give people experience, but then on the flip side, they're always looking for someone who's got 5 to 10 years experience, and that for an entry-level role. Now, unless you're prepared to go down the apprenticeship route, which I did, but not everyone is in the position to be able to do that. So it's really frustrating, and I think it's one of them factors that I think everyone faces when they start out in their careers, or if they're looking to go that next stage along in their careers, regardless of which industry they're in. Also, when you face numerous rejections and barriers in place, and that stops you from the progression you want to make, it does have a knock-on effect on your confidence, and I think the uncertainty of I want to get a job in the industry I'm working in or working towards, and nothing's coming my way despite my best efforts. It's that, and it's like you have a rough idea of what your next step you want, what your next step is, but when it's not showing as an opportunity, or it's not being given to you, that the uncertainty of that specific situation, and that can be so overwhelming. Like, even before I started my apprenticeship for a local social housing association to do accountancy, and this was around the time when the pandemic and that was in full swing. But it took me around 2 years to get that opportunity, and to get my first step on the career ladder and get my way in the door. But for those 2 years, when opportunities were dried up, nothing was coming my way, despite the numerous CVs and cover letters and that I would email or send out, try and network with people as much as I could on LinkedIn and various other networking places. It just wasn't getting anywhere, and I think it's that frustration of not what's going to happen next, especially when it's something as important as having a job, or obviously because you need to provide an income for yourself. It makes it even more harder to manage those feelings and thoughts of uncertainty, and reframe those thoughts and feelings with something more positive by focusing on what you can control and contribute, rather than things that are outside of your control. And also adopting a growth mindset rather than a negative one. Because if you keep yourself stuck in that negativity cycle, it just gets you nowhere. It's like chasing your own tail, and nothing's going to come from it. Building self-confidence and embracing uncertainty can be a very challenging journey of self-discovery for autistic people, but it is absolutely achievable, and to overcome any barriers and strive forward in life with the right mindset and practices. So I'm going to share with you some tips and that can help you on this journey of self-discovery, whatever that is for you. Shifting your mindset about uncertainty. With this one, you've got to view uncertainty as a mechanism for growth rather than fearing the unknown, as growth, creativity and new opportunities arise, and embrace it as a journey rather than an obstacle or an end outcome. This need that we have for control is just an illusion, to the point where you can be chasing your own tail. And if you allow it to get away with itself, it can affect your thinking process. And in turn, it just puts you under immense pressure of controlling every outcome and trying to predict the future, when the universe doesn't work like that, I'm afraid. So it's important to reframe, failure and rejection as learning, and it's also an opportunity for other doors to open. Confidence grows, by making mistakes and using them as stepping stones, not setbacks, to learn and develop more and become the best version of yourself. There was a time where I really struggled to shift that mindset of uncertainty to a positive one instead of a negative one. And I had to know what the outcome was going to be, but at the end of the day, it just puts pressure on yourself, and it just adds to the anxiety that you're most probably already experiencing in your life up to that point. Autistic people, we do struggle with anxiety, and I think it's very important as individuals that we manage our anxious states, effectively, and try and reduce how it impacts our lives on a day-to-day basis. Practicing self-awareness and self-acceptance. To be able to build confidence and embrace uncertainty, it's very important to understand what your strengths are, and to also recognise the areas that you might maybe need to improve on, and take time to reflect on your skills, talents, knowledge, and also successes that you've had in the past. So it gives you that solid foundation of self-assurance. And always remember, the only validation that matters to you in this world is your own. Acknowledge your fears and label them in a certain way that helps reduce the power that they have over you. And embrace imperfection, because no one is perfect in this world, myself included, and I'm just as guilty as much as you are about this need for perfectionism. And even that is something that I have to still wrestle with, even as of today. But no one's perfect. You're going to make mistakes in life. And it's about focusing on the journey rather than the end outcome. Because if you focus so much on the outcome, and even if you get there and you achieve that outcome, you might not enjoy it if you've not enjoyed the journey that you've taken to get to that point. So really focus on the journey, not the outcome. And confidence, it's not about being perfect. It's about accepting who you are as a person, flaws and all, and focus on your own path of self-discovery and not compare yourself to others, because that is just going to set you back even more and makes you feel bad in your mental well-being as a result. And that is something that we do not want. Take small and calculated risks. Overcoming anxious fears about uncertainty, it can feel overwhelming at the beginning. But if you start taking small steps outside of your comfort zone, you will start to see an improvement in your overall well-being, and your tolerance for uncertainty and embracing it. This can be anything, from trying a new hobby and trying a different career path, or putting yourself in social situations and where you can make a contribution without the fear of what other people might be thinking. Because remember, if you go to a social situation and a lot of people there, they might be just as anxious as you are and about meeting new people. And this is something that impacts, not just autistic people, but even neurotypical people as well. So please do take solace in knowing that you are not on your own. And there's other people out there that might feel exactly the same as you do. So, and I think that just lightens the load to know that you're not on your own in that situation. But by taking small risks, over time, those little wins, and those little wins are very important when it comes to enjoying your journey of self-discovery. But when you add them up, it boosts your confidence over time. And by taking risks and making decisions, they can help move you forward, and always reflect on what you have learned, regardless of what the outcome, because sometimes there might be situations where you might have an outcome in mind, but it might not have necessarily been achievable, but the experience is something that you've gained some value from, and that has also built your confidence, and that as a result. So never take it for granted. Even if you don't get the optimized outcome that you wanted from a situation, but even if you get just under there, that is something rather than nothing at all. The worst you can do is just sit back and not take a risk or make a decision that can propel you forward to wherever you want to go in life. That's the worst mistake you can ever make, just sitting back and doing nothing. Build a supportive network of people. Now, I know that networking is something that autistic people will struggle with, but if you surround yourself with people that brings positivity about them, and they encourage you in your efforts to become more confident and embracing uncertainty, that's gonna help you massively in terms of building rapport with others, because you can relate to them in a certain way. Negative people, all they do is just feed onto your fears and self-doubt, and that is something you want to ignore. And you should be chasing your dreams and ambitions with nerves of steel and determination. And if you can, try and seek out potential mentors or role models, or people that who might be within certain groups of hobbies or interests that you are in. Listen to them, and because they might be able to give you guidance on certain things that might be able to help you aid your decision making or make better choices. And listen to whatever feedback that they give you about certain things, even if it's starting a business or starting a new hobby, learning a new skill. There's always something of value that you can learn from people that are older and more experienced than you. When I was a child, I always used to get on better with people that were older than me and had more life experience than me, because I could learn something from them. And that's how I was able to develop my mindset, and from being a teenager, a lot more than what my peers were, because they were so focused on just having a good time and just mucking around. Like they didn't see the value of what self-education is all about. And it's very important, because we never stop learning, and self-education is something where you pick out the skills and the knowledge that you want to develop, and that'll aid you in your future, whatever that is. Develop resilience and self-compassion. Resilience is the key to navigating and embracing uncertainty. Life and that will always have its ups and downs, and how you respond to it will shape your confidence. And this is something that everyone has to deal with. Doesn't matter how routined or how effective they are going through their day-to-day lives. There'll be ups and downs and things that'll jump into the equation out of nowhere, and it takes you up, and it unsteadies yourself, and you just have to deal with those situations and have the resilience to bounce back from setbacks and maintain a positive outlook when things just don't go as according to plan. But if you develop a growth mindset that tells you to embrace challenges as opportunities to learn and improve, and when you face those obstacles, it will remind you that failure or rejection does not define you. Your ability to adapt and grow as an individual, that's what it does. How you respond, what you control in that situation, and it's you as a human being. That's what defines you. Not your autism. Your autism might be something where you have to work with it to get through life, but it doesn't define you entirely. It's your character, your soul, your heart, and how you bring the best version of yourself at the end of every single day. That's what matters at the end of the day. And that's how you define you. And always be kind to yourself and realise that you will make mistakes, and it's okay to not have everything figured out, and you are doing your best. And I know that last sentence is something that I've had to learn the hard way. Because I'd always see mistakes as failures, and I have to have everything worked out before I embrace going down a certain thing or taking this situation or whatever. But you can't have it all figured out. Even with this project now that I'm working on with the Aspergian Journal, I don't have it all figured out. I haven't got a 5-year plan of where I'm going to be. I just want to enjoy. I just embrace the journey and focus on the vision that I have for the Aspergian Journal. That is promoting autism advocacy through creative empowerment and inspiration. So I focus on that, and things will develop, and they will reveal themselves over time. So enjoy the here and now. No, don't worry about 5-10 years in time, because you're just gonna be wasting the present moment in doing so. And that leads nicely onto my final point. Focus on the present moment, not the future. All these little what if thoughts you have, that hold you back, you have to let them go and realise that the future is unpredictable. And by overthinking about them, what can go wrong, and that, this what if, and that, all it does, it paralyses you. So that's why you need to use like mindfulness techniques and meditation, your deep breathing exercises and journaling, which I've mentioned before in a previous video about mental health and how to manage loneliness and so on. By using those methods, it helps you to stay within the moment, and it can help reduce your anxiety around uncertainty. The more calmer and more grounded you are, the easier it is to face the unknown with confidence. Even if you're unsure, taking action day to day, work on being that 1% better every single day. And over the course of a year, you'll be surprised on how much development you can make in 12 months. Just by taking action, it builds confidence. and that you need to keep going. And always remember, procrastination only fuels the self-doubts, the self-doubting thoughts that you have. But by taking action, it gives you that momentum and that to get rid of the anxiety around uncertainty, and it boosts your confidence. At this point, you will have maybe noticed, if you've watched my videos and read my newsletters on Substack, that confidence and that has been highlighted quite a lot in my work up until this point. Because confidence, I think, is something that autistic people do struggle with, and they do have the potential to become more confident and independent people. But sometimes it's just having that motivation or the inspiration that they need just to get them on that track of personal development that they can make in their lives for the better. And I will even keep referring to this even in future videos and newsletters that I do. So please do subscribe to this YouTube channel and on Substack so you can be kept in the loop for when I release new content. Upon reflection, confidence isn't something that happens overnight, and it takes time to build through experiences and making mistakes towards the dreams and goals you are working on in life. By embracing uncertainty and the challenges that it brings, autistic people can become more resilient as individuals and be able to tackle unforeseen situations or events that they come across. The more you face uncertainty with an open mindset and instilled sense of determination, the more you'll develop the strength that you need to move forward confidently, no matter what life throws at you. Your mind can be your best friend and your worst enemy in equal measure, so choose wisely and honour it well. Self-confidence can be a strange thing to master for autistic people, myself included, but by facing your fears head on, like any other anxious thought, and building the resilience to not let them bother you, the sooner you'll soon realise that autistic people, we are more capable of a lot of things in life and have the potential to achieve our goals and dreams against all the odds, whatever society throws at us. So for every autistic person out there, I hope that you can take everything that I've said in this video on board, and please make me proud, very proud, as you would be for me. As always, thank you.